Good morning and welcome to the latest episode of the Shaw Local Bears Insider Podcast. I am Chicago Bears beat reporter Michael Dwojak here with the Northwest Herald's Joe Aguilar as we are joining you guys on Monday morning. Bears victory Monday morning, a crazy Bears victory Monday morning, a playoff Monday morning for your Chicago Bears. Bears find a way to, in a season, Joe, where it's been countless comebacks, it's been countless incredible moments. The Bears outdid themselves once again on Saturday night at Soldier Field, coming back to beat the Packers in dramatic fashion in overtime. And then they got some help from Aaron Rodgers, noted Bears fan, noted Bears owner, helped out his team. I guess he's the Bears owner, so he helped out his team on Sunday night, taking down the Detroit Lions, and the Bears are in the playoffs for the first time since 2020. They got two more games to go in this regular season. But Joe, what an incredible weekend for this franchise, for these fans. Just an insane weekend.
Yeah, that's an epic game. Bears Packers. That's one we'll remember as Bears fans forever. Right? I mean, that's a clip that touchdown pass at the end to DJ Moore will be one we'll be seeing for the rest of our lives. Honestly, right? I mean, it was that great, that clutch, and it's funny because probably like you think after the game, okay, so what do we learn about the Bears after this game? And my takeaway was nothing. I mean, this is really what we've seen all year from them, from the timely takeaway to the clutch heroics in the final 2 minutes to the quarterback being like to oh my gosh, he's the franchise quarterback. Moments like that, and it was just I tell you what, it's going to make for a much merrier Christmas for Bears fans had it not gone the way it looked like it was going to go up until the final 5 minutes.
Yeah, it was insane. There are so many moments where you just one play, like I was just kind of thinking about it the other day and even this morning, kind of get ready for this live stream, and I was kind of like, man, if that play doesn't happen, that we're not talking about a win. Like there are so many of these types of moments in the last 5 minutes of Saturday night's game where you're just like, man, if that just doesn't happen, that we're not talking about it when we're talking about another loss to the Packers. We're obviously talking about, all right, can the Bears squeak out a couple wins here, a win here to make the playoffs? But it's an incredible, I was sitting up in the press box. Bears were down by like 10, and I just, obviously we pre-write stuff. We talked to people about this before about how we pre-write stuff, and I was kind of like hesitant because like I was just like, I've done this before. I've written the bad stuff before, and then I just waste my effort, and then I just throw it all away. And I still had stuff ready in case the Bears didn't come back and all that stuff. But I was kind of like, I don't know. This team has won in dramatic fashion. This team was there 2 weeks ago to win in dramatic fashion against the Packers. So I guess I'm not surprised, but just for them to do it, like I said, and so many things had to happen this time around, so many different moments, so many people had to step up. It's an incredible win. And like you said, Joe, it's one that Bears fans will be talking forever. I see the live stream we've got going on. A bunch of guys are joining us. Thank you to everyone who's joining us on this Monday morning. Everyone's really excited. If you're liking us on the live stream, make sure you comment. Give us your comments, your thoughts. What was your experience on Saturday night watching that epic fashion, that finish? And make sure you give us a like as well while you're here, so you get other live streams whenever we're on. If you're on Facebook, give us a like or a heart, whatever you want to do, and comment as well. We'll answer your questions from Facebook. And if you are on the podcast and you're like, man, I want to be part of the conversation, make sure you give us a like, by the way, wherever you listen to podcasts, but also check out our social medias. We'll usually post whenever we do a live stream. We usually do our live stream on Monday and Friday mornings. All right, Joe, let's try to break this thing down. Let's try to break down what happened here. We like to do it with our usual 3 winners, 3 losers from the game. And, even with the big win, I feel like we'll have a lot to talk about on the negative side as well, which is just crazy because I feel like this team is just, scratching the surface of what it could potentially be. And that's really funny at 11-4 at this point. But I'll let you start off, Joe. What is your first winner from Saturday night?
Well, you know how much a supporter I've been of this guy all year. Santos, I mean, find out loud. Michael, I should trust more in Cairo, and I should trust more in you because you're the guy all year who's been saying the kicker is fine. Let's stop talking about the kicker. But wow, not only navigating the winds, but from distance. Like you said, hey, from 40 yards in, you really want. There's no other guy you'd want kicking a field goal, whether it's Soldier anywhere else. For him to deliver 46, 51, and 43 yards, where you're watching the game on TV, and I'm sure you could see it from up in the press box too. The goalposts are swaying. This is not a fun night to be kicking an extra point, let alone field goals from that far. And like a pro, he delivered in that game for a lot of reasons, more than just sit in the standings and playoff seeding, the potential to make the playoffs, but against the dang Packers, for him to do that, I don't know if we'll remember that 20 years from like we're going to remember that Caleb pass to DJ at the end, but that was a huge moment. Well, there were 3 moments, I guess, for him, but that's maybe the biggest game of. He's had a long, successful career in Chicago, but to do what he did with those 3 field goals, once again, kind of to bail out the offense, which we've seen before. But he's been up and down, but you've preached the up with him, and so kudos to him. Kudos to Cairo Santos because that was quite the performance. Because you think about even if he misses one of those, it's a different ball game. It doesn't come down to the end like it did, and then plus he's the guy who successfully executed the onside kick. And even though you could talk about Romeo Doubs not going after the ball like he should, Josh Blackwell making the recovery, we've seen kickers, hit a bad one off the T2 on those onside kicks. So Ben Johnson had a lot of game balls to give out after the game. He didn't give one to Cairo, but he certainly deserved one.
He gave one to Cairo. Cairo was his first game
he
ball.
He did get one?
Yeah, Cairo was the first game ball. Yeah, I mean, to put it bluntly, you don't win that game with a Cairo Santos. That the Bears did not have an offense for 3.5 quarters. Like they just, after that first drive, which ended in a disappointing way, the Bears just didn't have an offense just based on they couldn't get execution going, but they also just didn't have the ball too often. So Cairo Santos, for him to make that 46-yarder in the third quarter, then he makes a 51-yarder, which makes it a 1-possession game, and then he makes that 43-yarder. Obviously, you would have wanted that fire drill. I think you would have wanted that fire drill, to go a little bit better.
Sure.
But I was also kind of the mindset. I was rewatching this yesterday and listening to the broadcast, and Tom Brady said that he would have liked to have been a quicker. And I think they would have liked to be quicker, like a call timeout. But I would much rather, at that point, Cairo just take his time and make sure that he makes the kick, right? Because I understand the need for urgency. I understand the need that you need to make sure that there's as much time left on the clock and all that sort of situations. But if he rushes and either shanks it or doesn't, get in the right position or in the right momentum or whatever he needs to do to make that kick, like it doesn't matter what happens, how much time you have left in the clock, because he doesn't make the kick, right? So I understood the need to be like, we got to run the fire drill, however they want to describe that field goal kick quickly before they get to the 2-minute warning. But I thought that was run fine. He made the kick in those circumstances. Obviously, he was kicking with the wind, so he had support there, but he was still battling really tough crosswinds. And again, that kind of has been my whole point about Cairo. I'm not trying to take a victory lap this whole year, but he's not going to make a 60-yard field goal. He knows how to play at Soldier Field, and that's a credit to him because that's an important thing. Other kickers don't know how to kick at Soldier Field. It's a science. There have been so many times this season where I'm watching a game and at the south end zone, the goalposts are barely moving, and then at the north end zone, like it's
Yep.
swirling like crazy. Like it is just such an inconsistent stadium to kick in, where at one point the wind is doing something at one part of the stadium. I had friends at the game, and they said that it was howling at one part and not howling at the other part. It's an insane place to kick, especially at a night like this, especially this late in the year when it gets this cold. You need a kicker who knows what he's going to do, how he's going to perform in those situations. And you saw the value of Cairo Santos, and I agree. You don't win that game if Cairo isn't there and Cairo makes those key kicks.
Yeah, in golf they call it shot shaping, right? I have to know how to move your ball left to right, right to left. And no one really talks about that with kicking. And look, we all get enamored. Well, I get enamored with the 60-yard field goal, the 65-yarder. But you don't have to shot shape a lot. But when you have to and you need it, and you need it typically in bad weather, late season games that matter. And you have to have that. So, all the kickers can look great when you're playing in a dome, but for him to do that, and I agree with you too about Ben Johnson. I took some slack for the time management at the end there. You could have gained the 2-minute timeout there, have it on the north side of the 2-minute warning, that field goal. But I agree with you. That field goal, it's different if it was like a 25-yarder. Maybe you could speed it up a little, but it's a 43-yarder, and everything's got to go perfectly, and it went perfectly. So in that regard, and even at the end, even as much as as great as that 2-minute drive was for the Bears after they executed the onside kick successfully, you had time. It wasn't like you were down to your final 30 seconds. So they still had ample time. But anyway, great job for Cairo to sum it up there.
All right, my first winner. There obviously are a ton of winners from this game, but I'm going to go with DJ Moore. Obviously, he made the game-winning touchdown, but he made so many big plays. He obviously caught that 20-yard leaping catch on the game-tying drive. And he took hits. I don't know what he did to the Green Bay Packers. Obviously, I know cheap shots had been the story of the game, and we'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later in the podcast too. But listen, he took. I don't know what Nixon and him have been up to over the past two games, whether they have like a bad rapport with each other, whether they're really taking the rivalry. But that hit when Caleb was running completely and was completely away from the ball, and DJ just got blindsided for some reason. I'm not sure what happened there. I think there was another play too, where he kind of took some hard hits. The guy was gassed. I mean, the Bears were running basically doing a 2-minute drill over the last 5 minutes. But yet he still showed up for you in key moments. I know he had the penalty that hurt them on that penultimate drive because he didn't get set back in time. But DJ could have easily been like, I'm hurt. I've been hurt this entire season, man. I've been beat up so much. But without Rome Odunze, without Luther Burden III, DJ's like, I can't quit on this team. I cannot be out there. I have to do whatever I can. And he shined in the biggest moments. And it felt so fitting for DJ to get that moment. He kind of, I feel like DJ kind of signaled like the shift with this Bears team, right? Like Ryan Poles trades the number one pick for DJ Moore and all that kind of stuff. And he kind of signaled that new era, right? The new part that Bears were really exciting for. So it was a really cool moment for DJ just to have that opportunity to catch that game-winning touchdown, to make key plays in Sunday's game. That was just a really cool moment for a guy who has not experienced any winning throughout his, 8 or 9 year career at this point. It was a very special moment for DJ Moore on Saturday night.
Yes, and how poetic at the end. He burns who on the play? Nixon, who gave him that cheap shot. Now that's just dirty. I don't want to be all like, hey, the Packers, dirty, cheap. That was 85, mid-80s Bears Packers cheap. That was just how he's not penalized. I hope the league looks at it. That's dirty. And that was brutal that he got cheap shotted, not looking, blindsided like that. You can really mess up a guy. So that was poetic. And at the end, it didn't matter. That's pass interference on the touchdown catch. Guy's grabbing his neck, for crying out loud. So good for DJ Moore. I agree with everything you said about DJ there, Michael. He kind of started. He was the first key piece because the draft picks hadn't arrived yet from that haul for Carolina for the number 1 pick. But for DJ Moore, and we've seen it now. We said it last week after the game against Cleveland, where he was the Cleveland game where he had the one catch for -4 yards. Right, am I missing in the game? Like, I'm already forgetting. Like, who did they play last week? That was fantastic for DJ Moore. We've said all year how you've been talking about how hurt he's been, but he's just a good football player. We've seen that the last 3 years in Chicago. So if you weren't going to mention him as one of the winners, I was going to mention him for sure. So props to DJ Moore.
Triple R chiming in. DJ looks much better as a wide receiver as opposed to a running back.
Right.
I would agree with that assessment, DJ. Robert chiming in from across the pond. Moore is a beast. So happy for him. You do have to be happy for him. He's just a great guy. I know we really got some detectives out there on social media who love to look at the sideline and they're like, DJ's so mad. He hates Caleb. Look at the way he acts. It's just like, that's who he is, guys. Like, that's how he is, win or lose. That's his demeanor. That's his general character. As someone himself who also maybe sometimes seems like he's annoyed the entire time. That's just the way we are. We just kind of look that way. I'm sorry for that. That's just the way we are. I'm sorry everyone gets so upset about that. But it was a really cool moment for DJ just to pick up the key game, for that to be the game where he, really shines. It was a big moment. So obviously congrats to DJ in a big moment. And obviously I know he got that quote after the game that got a lot of Bears fans excited. So congrats to him. All right, we got to keep this thing moving. Joe, who's your second winner from Saturday night's win?
Well, I'm going to go with Jade Walker. This is the darling of the preseason. That touchdown catch, hey, man, there's a lot of guys who don't come up with that football. It's nice that he's 6'3". You forget, we've barely seen him. He's only played 6-7 games this season. The Bears have been relatively healthy at the wide receiver position up until the last couple of weeks here. So, but Jade Walker, man, more. I've been saying more of Luther Burden, more of Loveland. Here's another guy I want to see more of. That was a great catch. Almost as good as the dance. Michael, I had to look it up, and you probably know it. It's called the Juby dance. He does that. We saw that in the preseason too with the Tyson Bagent throw at the last preseason game. He actually has a tutorial on that dance on YouTube. You can find it. But Jody Walker, man, he had the first catch of the night for the Bears from Caleb, and I like it. He looks like he can catch. Being 6'3" is nice because that kid, I know it's a crowded wide receiver room when they're all healthy, but I like what I see. Again, I'm not a scout, but for him to catch that pass, he will forever have that moment, regardless of what kind of career he has going forward. If he's out of the league next year, or if he's got a roster spot secured, whether it's in Chicago or somebody else or somewhere else. But that was really fun to see because that just personality. You saw it in the post-game interview on the field here when DJ's getting interviewed and he pops in and is just clowning around. I know guys do that around the league, but he's got that energy. Seems like he's got that charisma. You've talked to him, I'm sure. It just seems like a real likable kid who you root for. And for that catch, I mean, that was a great throw by Caleb. No one's going to deny that. But that was, you could see that being dropped, going through his hands a little bit. Guys do that. He didn't. He caught it in the moment on 4th and 4 against the Packers. Come on.
Robert chiming in. Joe, you've tried that dance. Don't lie.
I haven't. I was in traction for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, Jade, he's a fun story. He's got that riz, as the kids like to say. Like he in the locker room, like for an undrafted rookie, he's always like the loudest guy. He's providing the music. He's a big figure in that locker room after the game. But you kind of saw that, like, for him to make his first career catch on the first, catch of the day on Saturday. When you're going to play, playing without Rome, you're playing without Luther. All right, I'm just going to throw it to the undrafted rookie, right, for the first pass catch of the game.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's been talked about a lot too. I am glad you brought that up. That was not essentially an easy catch to make. That was not a like. We'll get to Caleb here in a second, but that throw, like, it was in the corner of the end zone. It was obviously rushed because Caleb was about to get destroyed. But for it, he like Jade had to jump up and get that ball. Like, I don't know, like you can maybe argue, well, did he just jump to be 100% or whatever? But that very easily could have been like he missed that catch. He didn't get his feet in bounds. That could have been a disaster situation. So yeah, again, that goes to prove what this coaching staff has done, right? It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're the sixth wide receiver, you're the sixth linebacker. The Bears have done this entire season. This Bears team has bought into what Ben Johnson has preached from the moment he's got here in the spring about every guy matters. Every person has to be prepared. Every detail matters. And you've seen it throughout the season, right? Like that moment doesn't happen if Jade doesn't work the entire season to be ready for his moment. And that doesn't happen if Antoine Randall isn't on his butt every single day, if he's chewing him out, if Eric Bieniemy isn't, if Declan Doyle, like all the coaching staff, like these moments don't happen without this coaching staff. And not to divert us real quickly, but there's a reason why Caleb said he has the best coach and the best coaching staff in the world. Like what this group has been able to do this entire season, it's been incredible. And Jade is just another example of it. We've talked about it a million times, whether it's DeMarco Jackson, Ahmed Agbambiga, like all these different guys have stepped up in key moments. And that's a huge credit to this coaching staff, just getting anyone on this roster, anyone on the practice squad ready so that whenever their number is called, they're ready to go. Jade was the latest example of that, and that was such a very cool moment on Saturday night.
Yeah, and one more note on that, and I'm glad you brought that up too about the coaching, and we did talk about it, have talked about it in the past, but guys, no matter who you are, whether you're second string, third string, or on the practice squad, being ready. You could even throw in Jake Moody for that, into that conversation. But I remember, and maybe we'll talk more about it as we talk about the Niners on Friday, but previewing the next Bears game. But you remember last year when they went to San Francisco and the Niners were just like, everybody was out. Everybody was out. And they destroyed the Bears. Guys making plays like, I'd never heard of this guy in my life. Not right. That guy either, that guy. And they destroyed the Bears. And that's coaching. That's all the prep work that you don't talk about during the week because no one really cares. But those guys, when their number is called, and all coaches, even in high school, talk about next man up, but you really don't see it manifested until a big game comes up, and then it comes up, and that guy just steps in. It's like you didn't even realize, you didn't almost miss the other guy who was replacing. So it's a credit to the players and the coaches.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the sexy stuff, right? It's not the trick plays or whatever, but it's the essential stuff of a winning franchise. And that's exactly what Ben Johnson has instilled in this franchise. All right. It's hard to rank. We don't really rank these when we do these winners because, like, some of these or whatever. But my second winner is obviously your quarterback. Your quarterback won you another game. Your quarterback won you is the sixth fourth quarter comeback of the season. It didn't look good for the first 3.5 quarters. Some of it was pressure. Some of it was drops. Some of it was just the Bears didn't have the ball that often. Like they really didn't run a lot of plays for a majority of those games. But again, I think Caleb Williams is showing you, if he hasn't already, I don't know if there's really a lot of argument at this point that he's your franchise quarterback, that there's a reason why you drafted him number 1 overall. We can stop with the whole, again, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, Caleb Williams, they could all be great quarterbacks. They don't all have to, there doesn't have to be one is the best quarterback, the other ones are bad. Everyone could just be a great quarterback class, and it just worked out that all these guys just worked out well together. We don't have to do a whole comparison thing, but Caleb, that throw to DJ Moore is insane. Like just the the play action, which has worked for him so well, which again, entering the season, is Caleb Williams going to be able to work under center? He's never worked under center. Caleb can't do play action. How is he going to run Ben Johnson's offense? Play action, fake to Kyle Monangai, a dime to DJ Moore, perfectly timed, perfectly thrown. I don't know what else needs to be said about Caleb. Is he perfect quarterback yet? No, he's not. I'm excited to see what he looks like with the whole offseason in Ben Johnson's system and how he can take a major step next week or next year. But that throw is that's just a winner's throw. Not many quarterbacks can make that throw. We've talked about that so many times this year, about the impressive throws. I don't know if you caught the replay. I was rewatching it yesterday, and I watched the end zone angle of it, and you just see like Caleb throw the ball, and then he just puts his hands in like the cup, like in the warmer, and he just kind of watches it. He's like, I got this. Like that's going in. And that's just like such a ball. Like the Bears have not had a winner like that since when? Like, when is the last winner the Bears have had? Like Brian Urlacher, maybe, like all the way back. Like they've never had, especially on offense, a winner like that. A guy who just like exudes swag, and he just like does it, and he does it every single week. And that throw to Jade where he's rushed, like the Bears, there was an unblocked, pass rusher, and he somehow gets the ball off, like Tom Brady says, like does a Steph Curry mid jump, gets the ball out, perfectly placed in the corner of the end zone. I mean, listen, I not to keep going, but like obviously, like I said, Caleb isn't perfect by any means yet. He's still developing. He still has a ways to go. But I think that Caleb has shown you that he's your franchise quarterback. He's a killer in key moments, and that just has to be such a big win for this franchise.
Yeah, and that throw in a season where he's had many great throws was the throw of the year of his career. I mean, it's only been not quite 2 years with him, but throw of the year from the pocket. Can we stress that enough? From the pocket, he's been criticized by many, including me. Anyone who watches, he can't throw from the pocket. It's just nice to see him sit in the pocket and throw to receivers. Well, that throw, just like throw it and just backpedal on defense because it's in. It's in from well beyond the arc. That was amazing. Now, that's 3 weeks in a row, by the way, where he's made a what kind of throw? Like, how did you do that? It was the one to DJ in traffic the previous week, and then the one to Zacchaeus, the side armor and the angle, the diving catch by Zacchaeus. 3 throws that are on his highlight tape for the season, certainly, and they've all been that's 3. And then plus the Jade Walker one. So that's really 4, but that was so smooth. And I didn't think he, up until the last 5 minutes, I didn't think he necessarily played poorly. It was just like, no, for a lot of different reasons. You haven't scored a touchdown yet. What? The game's almost over. So he hadn't done anything heroic. He had some good throws. The Zacchaeus drop, we'll get to that, was really bad. But, this is also what, Michael, is it 3 weeks in a row now where the weather's been crappy to play in. So it's tough to play football. And you see what the other teams too, whether you're winning or losing, it's hard. Football's hard. Playing in this weather the last 3 weeks for the Bears, it makes it even harder. But that was as fun as it gets. And I don't know. I think you've said it. We've said it all year, really. Again, is he perfect? No. Is he a Pro Bowl player right now? No. I mean, there are guys in the league who have better numbers in the NFC, but this is defining of every athlete in every sport. What have you done in the postseason? What do you do in the postseason? Are you clutch? Do you kind of pee down your leg? He doesn't. And when you see specialness like that, you just have to enjoy it and hope the guy plays for your team. That makes it even better.
Yeah, I mean, that'll be really fun to watch what he kind of looks like in the playoffs and how that kind of takes him to another level in those key moments. But another thing before we move on here, but an underrated thing of what he did on Sunday is he got rid of the ball a lot of the times. There were some plays where I was kind of like, Caleb, you got to run and pick up 5 yards there when he was scrambled. He still has a couple of those moments, but there was a few plays where there was miscommunication at the line of scrimmage. There was an unblocked guy, and Caleb just gets the ball throws away. He's done. There was an intentional grounding, which Caleb needs to do a better job of. That kind of made Cairo's kick harder. I can't remember whether it was the penultimate kick or whether it was the last kick that Cairo kicked, but there were a lot of moments where, listen, even without, we talked about this, even without Micah Parsons, this defensive line for the Packers is really talented, and Caleb was smart, got rid of the ball, something we talked about earlier in the season. Can he not hold on to the ball and take the sack? He got rid of the ball, lived to fight another day, and that's huge improvement. That's something they have to be really encouraged about moving forward. All right, Joe, give me your third winner from Saturday's win.
Well, I'm going to go with their red zone defense, because that was in a game where every play mattered, essentially. The Bears delivered it. It was frustrating because it's, what teams do, whether it's Jordan Love at quarterback or Malik Willis or anybody else. The teams move the football on this Bears defense. It's nothing shocking. I mean, that we've seen. But once inside the 20 and inside the 10, boy, they're like a different team here. They get really nasty. I know it's all defenses are probably better in the red zone. There's less field for the offense to operate. But and again, how about our guy and the Sean Wright again with another? He's had 2 forced fumbles that both been absolutely huge. The one on Jalen Hurts on the tush push, and now the one on Jacobs to strip that ball, and then welcome back Tremaine Edmonds. He recovers it. But they were good, and there was tight coverage on the incomplete on 4th and 1. I don't know if it was C.J. Gardner-Johnson in the first half with the tight coverage in the corner of the end zone, but that would have been it was a really small window because of the coverage there. So when they had to, I mean, hold them to a field goal. When the team's got a first and goal, you come out with a field goal. If you hold them to a field goal, you feel like that's a win, and that really mattered. So props to the defense. We know it's just not the 85 Bears defense. This is not one of the top defenses in the league. But when they have to make plays, they didn't get any interceptions. Fired it, dropped one, son of a gun. But they delivered again.
Yeah, it was. Sorry, you were kind of breaking it out there, so I want to make sure. But I agree. It was a bend don't break moment, right? Like where, listen, Jordan Love leaves the game, and you get you get Malik Willis in there, and he looks like a better quarterback. The Packers are able to run the ball down the field. Like it didn't look pretty. It looked like it was going to be a bad game, and the Bears were going to be in a shootout. But listen, the defense made key plays throughout the game to make them go 0 for 5 in the red zone. That's huge. That's for them to go into the red zone 5 times and for them to not score. That is just a huge moment. Rick chiming in, TJ Edwards gets the stop on 3rd and 1 was huge in overtime. I agree. TJ was a spy. He read that perfectly. He stuck with Willis, and he made that stop. That was a huge play. I'm glad you mentioned him because that'll get us time to talk about other stuff. But Nahshon Wright, I mean, again, surprise, surprise. Like if he doesn't get that force that fumble, the Packers at least put on 3 more points, if not score a touchdown. Again, we've talked about Shawnee this entire season. He's been phenomenal. What a great pickup. What a great story for him. And it's been great that he's been getting his flowers nationally too. And quite honestly, good for him. Every week he's getting more and more money, and he's making himself a bigger and bigger contract every single week. So congrats to Shawnee, because that's been amazing. So it was great for him to get that other moment. But yeah, I mean, listen, there were so many moments where you're just like, all right, this doesn't look great, but then the defense found a way to make a stop, and that was huge, and that's the main reason why you're able to pick up that win there. All right, my final winner. We'll probably do some honorable mentions because there are a lot to this, but obviously it's Josh Blackwell and the special teams. Josh Blackwell, I feel like, has stepped up in a lot of key moments this year. Whether it was the block kick against the Raiders that kind of started this whole thing. Or whether it was him having the key block for the Devin Duvernay kickoff return against the Vikings that set up the game-winning kick by Santos. And then for him to just have the mindset of get to the ball as quickly as possible. Dobbs, fumbles the ball and, doesn't kind of get possession of it. That's just huge. And again, what a great guy, where we talked about heading into the season about Josh Blackwell being like, well, he's going to be a depth guy. He could compete for a starting cornerback spot. And then, Nahshon Wright kind of comes in here and kind of, takes that role. And you're kind of like, all right, like, what is Josh Blackwell going to do for this team? Like he kind of seemed to be like the next in line, right? And you're kind of like, all right, maybe this coaching staff isn't really that interested in Josh Blackwell. But then you just see the value he has in special teams. And he's made huge plays this entire season. Obviously, kudos to Cairo for executing the kick the way it needed to be and getting it into the I don't think that's called the landing zone, but getting it past 10 yards in order for it to be a successful onside kick, which have 8% chance of being executed correctly. But big kudos to Josh Blackwell and the special teams in general. It was great to see him have another huge moment like that.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Josh Blackwell. I think he deserves a spot in the Pro Bowl, and they get that special team spot. Right? They still have that special team spot. I think he should be the guy and delivering in big moments. And he also had that downed punt. Was it the Cleveland game? The first was after the Bears had a punt the first series, and Torrey Taylor pinned him at the 1, where Josh Blackwell made that great play to keep the ball from going into the end zone. He had that play as well. So he's had these moments. It's hard for special teams cover guys or guys on punt team to shine if you're not touching the football when it's kicked to you. But he has this season. And again, when you have the type of season the Bears are having, 11 wins with the potential for 13. Are we saying that out loud? My goodness. Potential to win out and have 13 wins. You need contributions from everywhere, not just from your great quarterback, your great defensive lineman, whatever. You need special teams guys, including the cover guys, the guys like the Josh Blackwells. And then when he has to step in and play some series, he does fine too. So props to Josh Blackwell.
All right, Joe. I'm trying to think, any other big winners from this game? Obviously, a lot of different performances were great. But I'm trying to think if we missed any of the major ones before we move on to a little bit more of the negative stuff.
I don't know about player-wise, but certainly the winners were the fans, the Bears fans. They were loud, right? You were there. You could speak more to that than I can. They were loud. Weather was still cold. It's December, for crying out loud, in Chicago. But to get rewarded after getting we know the history here. We've been punched. Bears fans have been punched in the mouth too many times by this franchise, whether it was led by Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre or Bart Starr 60 years ago, whatever. The Bears fans deserve that game, and Packers fans can say, "Yeah, we still own you. Look at the record, the season series forever." That's okay. That's okay. And this is nothing against the Packers fans. This is just Bears fans needed this game, especially going into the holidays, right? But it's funny because at 5 minutes left, we talk about all the comebacks, the 6 fourth quarter comebacks, and this is what the Bears do. But no one really has, I don't think, had 5 minutes to process the game is over when you're down 10. The game's over, and you're already thinking like, okay, what do they got to do the next 2 weeks? Are they going to have to beat? Maybe they have to win both of them. They got to get a win here. And how do you recover from this game? So for the fans to be able to be happy Saturday night, have a Sunday knowing we beat the dang Packers, and knowing what it means in the big picture, in particular this season, was wonderful. So for now, we'll enjoy it while we can. But it was the Bears fans certainly were winners from that game.
Yeah, it's definitely a very cool moment. I mean, that place was electric before the game. Listen, you had a whole game to imbibe whatever way you wanted to. I walked through the parking lots, and I saw a lot of different types of imbibing, but it was an electric crowd at Soldier Field. You obviously felt that they got the rally tales going. But also, like, for a majority of the game, they didn't really have much to cheer about, right? Like, it was that, like, let's not forget that for three plus quarters, it was an old school Bears Packers games, 3-0, 6-0, 6-3. I was like, Jesus, we're doing this again. But It was great. They were key, and once they felt the momentum with the onside kick, that kind of shifted things, and you kind of felt the reason why Ben Johnson wanted to give the Packers the ball to start overtime. Like that place was up for grabs. So that was huge. So yeah, obviously you've seen all the videos of the Bears fans celebrating. What it means to the city. A lot of fighting on social media between fans of the two sides. All I can say is it's fun that the rivalry is back. It's fun when both teams are good. Obviously, I know Bears fans would want it to be where the Bears dominate for 20 years, but I think it's more fun when both teams are actually good and these games are competitive. And it's just fun for the NFL. You've seen so many national people say it's fun when the Bears Packers are good because that's good for the NFL. And I think you see that with the whole, I didn't pick up on this until today, and I know I need to wind down here a little bit, but I didn't know that it was the narrative that the Bears didn't know about the field a couple of weeks ago, Lambeau Field, where the field wasn't as kept up, and that kind of forced the Bears to slip around. I didn't know that theory was going out there, and then I heard that the Packers bench didn't have heat. I learned about that today. It's maybe it's a coincidence. I would say that maybe George Halas came back from the dead and pulled the cord out or something. But it's good for the NFL when this rivalry is actually legit and has a lot of good stuff going. Yes. All right, Joe. Obviously, it's fun for the comeback, but we have to kind of look at the big picture stuff now of this team making noise in the playoffs or into playoffs. This team still has stuff to figure out. It was far from a perfect game on Sunday. Or Saturday. I keep doing that. What's a loser for you from Saturday? And listen, for how great of a win it was, there's plenty to choose from.
Yeah, it wasn't a thrilling game for three quarters. I don't know. I mean, in no particular order, I guess here, but I'm just going to go with Olamide Zaccheaus. Again, you talked to him. He's a very nice young man, I'm sure. And but the drop was really big, and there's starting to add up with him. The drops. It's funny because I googled Olamide Zaccheaus drops. I think I got a kind of recap. He had the one game where he had like 2 or 3 or something, was not good midseason. But like one of the first clips comes up was one from Washington when he was with Washington last season. So I don't know if that was kind of his reputation before the season. I mean, he's not a number one receiver. He's a slot guy. We know he's kind of, but he and Caleb maybe had the best chemistry of all in the preseason, and he's had a good year. I mean, you've gotten what you want out of him, but that drop, the Bears overcame it, and that fourth quarter was tough. And then you see the ascent of Bird in the second half. He's a second round pick. He's going to get the football, and now you see one game, small sample, really small sample with Jade Walker. And it's like maybe this guy, it's a 1-year contract with him. Maybe he's one and done. I don't know. That's a conversation for another day. And again, you've gotten a lot, I think, out of him certainly this year. It's been a good signing. We can say that, I think, certainly. But that drop was big, and it's like I said, they just seem to be adding up now. And it's one thing if you have no one else to go to, but now you're seeing you have other guys to go to. So maybe you start his playing time, his snaps start going down a little bit.
Yeah, it was tough. Like I listen, Olamide was such a fun story in training camp. And for the first half of the season, he was very dependable, right? Like he made key catches. He made a lot of good stuff. I don't know what's happened over the past couple of games. That drop was big. I think did he have another catch? Or was that he had 2 catches for 33 yards? He did have a nice catch,
like he made the sideline one, right?
Yeah, like that was a nice. Like he makes good plays. It's just like he would. That throw was just like that needed to happen. It stunk that it happened for Olamide. Obviously a good guy. But yeah, I agree. The drops were kind of an issue again. The DJ Moore one I wasn't so upset about. I agreed with Tom Brady on I think it was the fourth quarter where I just don't think the play design is supposed to be for DJ in that situation where he's double covered. I just don't think he's expected to make that catch. And sure, can you make the argument that you should expect to make the catch on any single play? Yes, you should make that argument. But that's a situation where DJ sees the coverage and he's kind of like, there's no way Caleb is going to throw this to me. And then Caleb throws it to him in double coverage. And maybe it seemed on the mark. So maybe DJ should be ready for that. But yeah, the drops were not good. And that could have derailed some stuff. My big loser is the penalties. It's bad. You start the game with DeMarco Jackson, the reigning NFC Defensive Player of the Week, and DeMarco jumps on the pile for some reason and draws a 15-yard penalty. You can't do that. That's it. Everyone knows what the rule is. It's funny and all that kind of stuff, but there's a reason why it's a rule. You can't do that. That's going to put people in serious harm's way. And if you know that that's a rule, you just can't commit that penalty. And it's just a bad penalty. You start off the game in bad way. Jaquan Brisker in the fourth quarter, Willis gives himself clearly. And listen, this isn't you mentioned the 80s and all that kind of stuff. Like, this isn't the old school NFL where you can take a late hit and you're trying to make a mark. No, now you're going to get penalized 15 yards and you're hurting your team. Like, you can't do those types of things. And we can open this can of worms now. The first roughing the passer on Austin Booker, I thought I didn't like the call. I think it's the NFL. What are you supposed to do? Like, as a player, I think what was the explanation? His body weight or whatever. Like, I understand we have to protect quarterbacks, but at some point you need to you just need to let them play the game. The second roughing the passer, it has to be called. It's head to head, whether it was intentional or not. You have to call that. Like, that's just a byproduct of the situation. Now, do I think that Austin Booker was headhunting, as a lot of Packers fans are putting out there? No. Jordan Love put his head down in the last second. It's a very unfortunate play. It's a violent game. Obviously, I would have wanted Jordan Love to stay in the game because it's a more fun game. Not that Malik Willis, played poorly by any means, but listen, those penalties can't happen. Some of those were inadvertent, but the DeMarco Jackson and the Brisker penalties primarily for me were bad. I mean, the Bears were called for, it was 9 or 10. It was 10 penalties for 105 yards. You can't have that type of undisciplined play in the biggest game of the season. And it used to be a problem with this team earlier. It seemed like they figured it out, but you can't play that type of undisciplined style of play in the biggest game of the year. And that almost cost the Bears a win on Saturday.
Yeah, no. And the DeMarco Jackson play, I think the kids call that crowd surfing. All right. I got the concerts. You were trying doing that summer, Michael, at concerts. You can't do that. Maybe he didn't know, or maybe he couldn't get off the pile fast enough. It's funny, but you can't have it, like you said. The Brisker hit, come on, man. You have all guys, better with all the concussions he's had. The Austin Booker, like, I don't know if you're like, is that a teaching moment for him? Like, because that's too bad. I mean, you know how valuable sacks are and how we look at sacks. I mean, you just took one. That was an empty netter. That was a layup for you. And you took one off the board for yourself. I mean, selfishly. And then in the big picture of the game, how important that play was. But I don't know if Montez Sweat says, hey, next time you get a free shot like that, here's what you got to maybe angle your shoulder pads. I don't know.
You got to lead with your shoulder. Like, you just have to lead.
Do that.
It has to come down to technique. You have to lead with your shoulder, go into the chest. Again, I know that we're asking these pass rushers to do this at 100 miles per hour and to instantly know what to do, but that's the game right now. So you either have to adapt, or you're just not going to succeed.
I'm sure Myles Garrett who plays as violent as anyone. He doesn't do it. Right. They know. So that's too bad for the young man. But if he learns from it, fortunately, you won the game, as crazy as it was. But if you can learn from that, I'll take that, because he's starting again. He's an intriguing player going forward, Austin Booker. But in general, you're right, Mike. 10 penalties. I thought we were past that. I think Ben Johnson probably thought we were done with that. Too many. Drew Dahlman had a hole. Darnell Wright, another false start. What are you doing? But that, and the Bears, I think after the first game 2 weeks ago up in at Lambeau, talked about being too hyped. I get it. You have to be hyped, but you can't be silly. And in a game like that, like the last one, where really it's a one possession game, every point matters, every play matters. You can't be you can't be doing things that you can prevent going forward. And they just have to be smarter about that.
Listen, those penalties are going to cost you in the playoffs. If you commit those types of penalties, you're going to lose. You're going to lose in the wild card, divisional round, whatever. Like, you're just going to lose. Winning teams don't create those kind of penalties. And I know it's fun that the Bears find ways to win these types of games, but I think we're entering now the next phase of being a fan and that kind of stuff with winning organizations, where you're like, all right, like, we expect to win these games. We have to play at a higher level now in order to make deep playoff runs. And you're not going to do deep. You're not going to have a deep playoff run if you're committing 10 penalties for 105 yards. That's just undisciplined play that's going to cost you in a lot of key moments. All right, Joe, another loser from you. I know we got to get this thing under wrap here in the next 10 minutes, but what's another loser from Saturday?
I just, it's hard for me to say, like I said last week, about one particular play. If you're going to say, hey, you're getting too cute here, stop with the cuteness. Well, the cuteness normally works for you. It works more often than not. But the Wildcat snap to Monangai on what, fourth and 1 at the 4 in your opening drive after you started at your 8. First drive of the game is going perfectly. You're going to get at least 3. What can ruin this? That penalty Monangai play. There's no need for that. And Monangai is 5'8", 5'9", a little dude. A shotgun snap on 4th and 1. And look, they run the football. They move people off the line. I mean, even if it's a straight, get your fullback in there and just run it, sneak it. There are a lot better options. You don't need that there. When you're trying to establish momentum early, take a lead early, and then we saw how the game, they didn't score again, didn't score a touchdown to the end. To blow that opportunity, man, that was tough to watch. So that play, and Ben, you can criticize the 2-minute, at the final 2 minutes. I don't know if it was Ben Johnson's best game. Again, I don't know why they don't establish the short passes with Loveland more. I think you still need to get him involved a lot more targets. He's the deal. We've talked about it a lot, but that Wildcat play didn't sit well with me, as I'm sure it didn't with anyone who was rooting for the team in Navy.
No, I was surprised that he chose to do it in that moment. That was just, the Packers go for it on 4th down where they probably should have kicked it. They don't execute. And that felt a moment where Ben Johnson was like, "Ha, it didn't work for you. Watch this. I'm gonna run this little thing, and we're gonna score a touchdown when you couldn't do it." And I don't know. I don't listen. Ben Johnson after the game said he liked the situation, he liked the thing. He just didn't expect the ball to be a high snap. So he seemed like he would still do it again, and he didn't really have a problem with it. So that's something to keep in mind, Bears fans, for these types of moments now moving forward, that anything is on the pot. And listen, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that that just adds another thing into defense's mind. It's just like, oh, they're going to run this. Like, sure, they had a high snap this time, but if they didn't have a high snap, that could have worked, and we have to be ready for that. So I didn't love it at the time. When it happened, there was kind of a gasp in the press box because they were just like, oh man, like, what are we doing here? But I did not love the play call. There were some times even during the game. Now, I will give Ben the benefit of the doubt of being like, the Bears had like 10 plays in their next 2 possessions, their next 2 possessions, because Green Bay just kind of owned the time of possession and that sort of stuff. But when the Bears did have the ball, I thought there just could have been better execution, maybe better play calling at times. So I would agree with you. I wouldn't say that the Bears were in that position because of Ben Johnson, but I wouldn't say it was one of Ben Johnson's best play calls or even game calling plays.
Yeah, and look, it's okay to say, you know what, that was not a good call. At some point, you just have to say, look, it wasn't a good call on my part. I should have done that in no situation. But when he doubles down, we saw a lot of that doubling down. Remember from Matt. okay, great. It's not, you're not going to execute every play, but sometimes I think you just got to own it and say, I blanked up. That's okay. Move on.
All right, I'm gonna do this real quick. Last loser for me is I don't know. We talk about this every week, but the lack of a pass rush is still bad.
Yeah.
I yes, Austin Booker got to the quarterback a couple of times. Yes, Montez Sweat had that sack at the end of the game to essentially force overtime, but whoever was at quarterback is getting no pressure. Like there's just no pressure at all out there. Malik Willis held on to the ball for, I feel like, close to like 10 seconds and still was able to get, I think it was like 10 or 15 yards on a scramble. You can't, like, if you're in the secondary, if you're a linebacker, you can't do anything with that. Like you just can't. There's only so much you can keep up with, right? Like at some point, the defense is going to break down if you can't get to the quarterback. And I think Dennis Allen did a fine job of trying to mix up when he's blitzing, when he's not. But listen, let's be honest. At this point, you're dealing with what you're dealing with. I think Grady Jarrett had a nice pass breakup in that game. But other than that, I mean, you're not getting much out of this defensive line. And I don't mean to end on a sad note or whatever, but like you're only going to go so far with that throughout this playoff, right? And it's obviously a major reason why we think the Bears. That's the number one. That's the number one thing you talk about: free agency, trades, the draft. Your first two picks. It has to be the defensive line because you saw on Sunday they came up with big plays in the red zone, but the Packers were in the red zone a lot and had little resistance, whether it was the pass rush or the run defense.
Yeah, I just hope when the season ends, whether it's after the first playoff game or whenever it ends, they realize the number one priority of this team is fixing the pass rush. Quit saying, we'll get Odengbo back. We got, Booker's took a step. Quit it. I don't want to hear that when the season ends. Acknowledge you messed up. You don't have to say you messed up with the Odengbo signing. Maybe you still get something out of him next year when he comes back at some point. But you have to fix that. That's the number one priority in the offseason. So I just hope they understand that and they admit it, and then they do something about it.
All right, Joe. We've got to wrap up here in a couple of minutes, but obviously wanted to talk about that was an insane game between the Detroit Lions and the Pittsburgh Steelers that ended the game on Sunday afternoon. But the Lions loss gave the Bears a playoff berth. They're back for the first time since 2020. Bears are currently the number 2 seed at 11-4. The San Francisco 49ers play the Colts tonight. San Francisco will I don't know how the tiebreaker works between them and the Rams. But right now the Bears would be hosting the Packers in the wild card round. Packers are the number 7 seed. We'll talk more about this on Friday when we talk about the 49ers game and what the playoff picture kind of looks like, the path and all that sort of stuff. But for this is exactly what George McCaskey, Kevin Warren, Ryan Poles could have possibly hoped for when they hired Ben Johnson. It's kudos. We gave Kevin Warren a hard time last week about the whole stadium thing, but I do think that he did play a major factor in letting George be like, listen, you have to pay money for this coach. We can't nickel and dime coaches anymore. We can't be like, oh, we'll pay a little bit cheaper and get maybe the second tier coach. Like he encouraged George McCaskey to go top shelf. They got Ben Johnson, and you saw what happened this season. It's been an unforgettable season. It's been a year where the Bears are 11-4 with 2 games left in the season. They're going to be fighting for an NFC title. They're playing for a top seed in the NFC. Has it looked perfect in the first season? No, there are still so many things that this organization has to fix on this roster. But for them to be at 11-4, for them to have 6 comeback wins in the fourth quarter, I don't think they could have asked for anything better in Ben Johnson's first season.
No, you're right. He's lived up to the expectations. And, everyone was probably going to be real fast to say what a mistake they made again. It's the Bears. It's the McCaskies. So, look, you're playing with house money the rest of the year. We don't want to see them lose 2 in a row, then to the Niners and the Lions to close it out and then lose in the first round. But this, 10 wins was a success. 9 wins was a success. You're at 11. You can win your next two. This is house money the rest of the way out. I don't want to see them lose. As a Bears fan, you're going to be angry if they lose Sunday night. You'll be angry if they lose to the Lions for the second time this season. But big picture, they are headed in the right direction. They got the quarterback right. They got the coach right. Those are the hard ones, right? So no, it's enjoy it. I'm just going to enjoy it because who knows what next year brings with the window. Does the window start then next year if it's already been expedited with what's happened this year, the Super Bowl window? I don't know. Just enjoy it. It's been a memorable season. A buddy of mine said the other day, he goes, man, this will be a fun video package on the DVD for the Bears season this 2025 season already. There have been so many highlights. It's been ridiculous. Plays we'll remember for a long time as Bears fans. So enjoy it. I think there are more to come. Hopefully they come with W's too.
Yeah, and obviously now that you're in the dance, you got to take advantage of being in the dance, right? Like obviously, I know expectations change, but you don't know what next year brings. You don't know injury. You saw that with the Commanders. The Commanders have been destroyed with injuries this year, so it's a big deal for them to be able to do that. So you got to take advantage of the moment, and it'll be really interesting to see how that kind of looks moving forward. All right, we got to wrap things up here. Thank you to everyone who joined us on the live stream. Make sure you click the like button, subscribe. Thank you to everyone who joined us on social media as well. If you're listening on the podcast, thanks so much. Make sure you're checking out our work at Shaw Local for the rest of the week. We'll have coverage from Hallis Hall, and we'll rejoin you guys on Friday morning at 9 a.m. as we preview a big Sunday night football game against the 49ers. And we'll talk about the playoffs more there as well. So thanks so much for joining us. Have a good rest of your week. Have a good Christmas, everyone. And we will talk to you folks on Friday morning.